Tara, we are live, we are good, and you are go for show.
Good evening. I'm Tara Singer, and it is my pleasure and honor to serve as the President and Chief Executive Officer of Omicron Delta Kappa. I want to welcome everyone to this evening's Student Trustee Candidate Forum. We have 3 great candidates for the position of Student Trustee and Chair-elect of the Student Advisory Board. The Student Trustee also serves as the National Student Vice Chair. Through the course of the evening, all of the participants, with the exception of the candidates, will be on mute. However, individuals are going to be able to ask questions through the chat box. Our Vice President for Membership and Operations, Dr. Tim Reed, will be monitoring the chat, and we will ask the follow-up questions at the end of the formal questioning that I will provide to the candidates. So, ladies, here is our first opportunity to keep going. We're going to rotate questions in that specific order that we talked about earlier. And so we'll begin with Angelina. So Angelina, please provide a little information about your background, ODK involvement, and your reasons for being interested in this opportunity.
So hi, Ren. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. My name is Angelina Corey-Sater. I'm a junior/senior at Rollins College right now. So this past Monday, I actually wrapped up my undergraduate degree in computer science, and I'm part of our 3-2 accelerated MBA program at Rollins. Long term, I do want to study intellectual property, so I do have plans to go to law school. So a lot of school in my future. My involvement at Rollins, so I'm part of the Rollins College Circle, and I've been honored to be on our executive board for this past year. I was our communications chair, and as the year progressed, that kind of turned into a vice president role, which I'll be serving during my senior year, during my first year, my MBA here at Rollins. Within that, that included attending bi-weekly meetings. We did a cookie decorating contest. We applied for a clay grant. Alexis Matten, who's also on this call, I know, and I are actually going to be presenting at a national conference in June. So we're very excited about that. So very, very involved within our society. And the reason I want to be on the trustee board is because I believe in this organization. I think it's done so much for me as a leader, and I'd love to be part of the future and changing that and continuing to leave this legacy.
Thank you, Angelina. Angelique, can you tell the audience a little bit about your background, ODK involvement, and your reasons for being interested in being the next student trustee?
I would love to. Hi, everybody. I'm Angelique. I'm in a 5-year program at St. John's University, which combines a bachelor's in science and business with an MBA. Very similar to Angelina, I also want to go to law school. I just finished up my senior year, and I'll be graduating in May, and then I have 1 more year left of my master's. And then as far as my involvement, I serve as the St. John's University Circle as the outgoing president. I'm also in charge of our social media, which handles the Circle's Instagram page and communications. And then I'm also a member of the marketing committee for the National Leadership Conference. And I would like to be the student-elect for the Board of Trustees because I really want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard, and I think that I have a difference to make.
Thank you very much. Emmeline, same question. A little bit about your background, your ODK involvement, and your reasons for being interested in serving as the Student Advisory Board Chair-elect.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment and thank everybody for setting aside this time in their night to come and hear what the candidates have to say. When I first started at the University of South Carolina, I noticed on our main walkway of campus, we have this brick walkway, and in brick, we have ODK. When I was a freshman, I was like, I wonder what that is. So I do Google, and then I just start seeing people with ODK buttons around campus. And one day I asked one of our campaign advisors for a student government campaign, I was like, what is ODK? I see it on the sticker on your laptop. And that was the first moment that I learned what membership in ODK could look like. And so that was when I was a freshman. My sophomore year, that same member, I was like, Peyton, do you think could I apply? Is my resume good enough? And I was doubting myself. And she took the time to explain to me that I was competitive enough. And that was a moment where I really understood how ODK community really builds one another up and helps amplify our achievements so that way we can go on to lead others. So after I joined and became a full initiated member, I ran and won the position of secretary my sophomore year, which I did April of my sophomore year through January. And I learned a lot through that role. I really understood a lot about what goes into making the circle go round. Lots of planning, lots of counting heads during attendance, and making sure we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's. And then from there, I went on this journey where I went and interned with the Department of Justice in DC last semester. So I took a step away from ODK, which was really hard. But now I'm excited to come back and get more thoroughly involved as president of the Chi Circle at the University of South Carolina. I have a lot of great things in mind for the University of South Carolina Circle. I really want to focus on diversity and especially in recruitment and the ideas we come up with as a circle. And we're focusing on two main things here. Our goals for the upcoming year are focusing on cultivating a strong community and creating diversity through our programs of outreach. And I want to run for this position because I envision those goals that we're going to accomplish at the Chi Circle being amplified to the national level and then being implemented from a top-down structure to all circles around the country. I think we have a lot of great innovation coming out of this Chi Circle, and I want to share the ideas our membership has come up with nationals.
And are you going to law school too?
I am. I'm taking the LSAT in June. So
interesting observation that all three of you all have that intent. Thank you, Emmeline. Angelique, for our participants tonight, why don't you share your experiences with other volunteer organizations as an officer or perhaps a board member?
Yeah, so on campus, I'm involved in Project Sunshine, which is a campus circle of a national nonprofit. So what it does is it has the goal of bringing joy to pediatric patients. So with COVID, that was a little bit difficult. It was less hospital visits and more behind the scenes fundraising and activities virtually. And then I'm also a member of our campus's UNICEF Circle and Global Brigades, as well as an active participant in Midnight Runs, which is very specific to St. John's. We are about 20 minutes outside of New York City, which has a huge homeless population. So unfortunate to that, they do partner with St. John's in our Vincentian mission. So we make sandwiches and we pack little bags. And from the hours of 10 to midnight, hence the name Midnight Run, we go into the city and we deliver those bags to certain areas to meet up with different homeless groups that know about the mission. And then off campus, I'm a volunteer-based tutor through EduMate, which is 100% free tutoring to New York City public schools. So it tries to match a college student or a university student with somebody of a low-income background.
Very good. Emmeline, what have your experiences been with other volunteer organizations as a board member or an officer?
So my freshman, well, I should start by saying that all of my experiences and volunteer opportunities that I've gotten to participate at the university and through my work are really focused around learning how to rally a group of diverse people around a common cause and to amplify the name of the group I'm working for. So my freshman year, I got involved with Student Government Campaign, where I was co-director of campus outreach. And I coordinated over 40 meetings with different student organizations to present our two candidates for student body president and student body vice president. And through this role, I learned so much about how you explain what an organization is about and how you coordinate so many different meetings to make sure people really understand what's going on there. And that's an experience I will take into my time as president of the Chi Circle. I think that using my skills of outreach and communicating with other organizations on campus is going to be a really important way that we diversify our membership by getting in front of groups like the ACLU of the University of South Carolina and talking about what it means to be a member of ODK and why that benefits people from every sort of community. And then I also got involved with an organization called Women Lead, and LEAD stands for Leadership, Education, Action, and Development. And this is a relatively small but a really empowered group of women who were learning how to direct their lives in the direction they want and learn how to be more confident in themselves. And I was on the executive board of that organization after being a cohort member my freshman year. And I learned so much about what it takes to run a small group of people and how that is almost sometimes just as difficult as running a very large organization like my circle at the University of South Carolina. So I can really relate to a lot of student leaders at different universities who might be struggling with recruitment and how to get their numbers up, but also understand what it looks like to run an organization that's really large and sometimes feels unmanageable. I also worked on the diversity and inclusion committee of our student government. And in this upcoming year, I'm going to be serving as the Attorney General of Student Government, in both of those roles, working to help marginalized individuals win their cases and get marginalized communities a spotlight that really celebrates their differences in a positive way for the university. And then in this last semester, I worked for the Department of Justice. So I was with the Sex Offense and Domestic Violence section of the United States Attorney's Office. And through that role, I really gained the value, like I understood the true benefits of having strong mentors. I can't even start to explain how important it's been to me to have attorneys who I can ask the questions of, where do I want to go to law school? And how did you pick where you want to go to law school? Or even something as small as like, which job opportunity should I take for this upcoming summer? And that experience has really shown the value of mentorship to me. And I really want to reinvigorate our sense of intergenerational mentorship in ODK and focusing on a circle by circle basis to reconnect those networks as we start to come out of the purely digital age that COVID produced.
Okay, all right. Angelina, it's now your turn to tell our participants about your experiences as a volunteer or board member with other organizations.
So when it comes to other organizations, a large part of my experience at Rollins has been being a student athlete. So I was originally recruited here to run Division II cross country. So within that, I was elected by my team actually as a freshman to be on what we have at Rollins. We call it the Student Athletic Advisory Committee. So it's essentially you're a board member with a representative from every other team, and we're making decisions for student athletes on campus. After my freshman year, the cross country team actually at Rollins was canceled, and that was really devastating. But I decided to pick up a new sport, so I learned how to sail. And actually, for this upcoming school year, I will be our Student Athletic Advisory Committee board member once again. I was also promoted to being co-captain for my senior year, which is really exciting to be able to serve my freshmen, my other teammates in that way, because this year kind of like I had that role, but it just wasn't necessarily a title. Other roles that I've had on boards within sailing itself. So I started sailing my sophomore year. For my sophomore year, my junior year, this year as well, I served on our SASA Tide Committee. So our SASA Tide Committee is a representative from every single team within our conference, which we call SASA. So it's a Southern conference, the Southern teams within the US for sailing, and it's the Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Committee. So within sailing, we realized that there are a lot of barriers for people who are coming maybe from underprivileged backgrounds or certain regions. And so our whole goal is to create a more welcoming area for everyone to be included in sailing, rather than having these barriers that block a lot of people from actually entering the world of sailing. And so I saw that as a really great place for me to grow and learn. And I know those are skills that I definitely would love to bring on to this committee as well. I also served as the National Society for Leadership and Success student president at Rollins College. So it's the largest honor society in the United States. And we actually inducted 121 spring inductees, which was really, really exciting for us.
Very good. Emmeline, tell me how the University of South Carolina Chi Circle adapted during the pandemic.
So it felt like the last 2 years threw about just every challenge that the world could come up with at the University of South Carolina and almost every person on this planet. So from those challenges, the Chi Circle has really gotten to a place where we're ready to innovate. We are wanting to try anything and everything to find creative solutions for recruitment and engagement and diversity. And we're really excited for all of the ideas we have coming up. But those ideas are coming from a place of creative and collaborative engagement. So one idea I had coming in as president of the Chi Circle is I really wanted to host a speaker series But it was really important to me that our membership had their variety of interests and passions represented in our speaker series. So I sent out a form, I asked everyone for their input, and one person who's a marketing major submitted that they would love to hear from the marketing manager of Savannah Bananas, which is the minor league baseball team of Savannah, Georgia. And if you're not familiar with this team, they dance before they throw out their pitches. It really throws off the other team. And their marketing team has found such a unique niche on TikTok to really market it. They've sold out almost every game for their minor league season. And communicating with our membership about what they would like to see has brought ideas like that I wouldn't even think of. And it was interesting to hear how she, as a business major, was interested in hearing from someone that is completely outside of, like, I had to look up who this person was. And then I understood the value of having a speaker like this. So moments like that have taught me that we really have to look within our membership to understand what their expectations are and where their needs lie, and meet them where they are, so that way we can host a more collaborative and engaging environment for them. Because at the end of the day, the goal of our circle is to create a place where members can come together and get to know each other and build a network while they're in college that propels them to a network after they graduate. And that's really what the mission about ODK with our intergenerational mentorship is really all about. But that has to start from a place of innovation. We've learned that some things have broken over the pandemic. Some things don't work anymore. Some people don't want virtual engagement. Some people still need virtual engagement. So we're trying to navigate this world of, do we do hybrid? Should we shift to mostly in-person engagement? And that sort of innovation as we move through is something that I think will be really valuable to nationals.
Okay, all right. Angelina, how did the Rollins College Circle adapt during the pandemic?
So the Rollins College Circle, we tried a couple of different things, because as time went on, Rollins did change our policies. So by mid-February-ish, all our regulations did go down. So we were able to meet in person with our members. But for the rest of the beginning of the school year, we weren't able to do that. So we had a lot of Zoom meetings. We have a group chat, so we communicate through there. We also started a couple of different things. So I worked with Alexis, and a big thing that we focused on this year was trying to connect our old members, or our past members, or our alumni, and our current members, right? So if our current member, like myself, like I want to go to law school, I'm sure we have plenty of alumni who went to law school. So trying to make those connections and using technology in that way, especially in today's, with the pandemic and everything, since we can't go meet for a cup of coffee, I'm going to add you on LinkedIn, and now we're going to have a conversation over LinkedIn. So that was a lot of our adaptability throughout the semester. Even with induction that we completed a couple of weeks ago, we did an in-person induction for everyone that was able to make it, but we also did offer an online version for people who weren't able to make it or had various health issues. Because something we did realize, since our chapter, we're doing something I think unique. We call our day school, we call it CLA, and our night school, it's called the Holt program. And so our chapter actually allows our Holt students, so our night students, who are either, some of them are part-time workers, some of them are parents, some of them are people who are just coming back to school. They're people from all different walks of life who just can't participate in the day school for whatever reason. And so we're allowing them into our chapter. So with that, we've had to adapt, along with having COVID and dealing with all those health issues, to having this hybrid environment. Because one of our members, I remember, she was a parent, she's a mom of two. So for her to come to a meeting, like, she would have to get a babysitter, or so there's all of those different things that we had to adapt with along with the pandemic. So our chapters really relied on the hybrid. Hybrid's been huge for us, because we of course want everyone in person, and we believe that, in-person interaction is the best way. Like, I am a true believer in that. But we also believe that there's, certain limitations, and we have to adapt with those. So we've just been very flexible. That's been our whole approach, is test and go.
Angelique, how has the circle at St. John's University in Queens adapted over the course of the pandemic?
So like all circles, I'm sure, we had to move everything online. And through this transition, we've changed a few things, including our social media and communication strategy. We wanted to accommodate for now. Unlike Rollins College in Florida, New York had very strict guidelines. So we wanted to accommodate for a fully online environment. So we wanted to focus on sharing opportunities. So for example, I took the initiative to meet with our career peers, which are volunteers through career services. They can meet with our members to do cover letters, resumes, interview tips, general questions that you would ask your career service. So I met with the career services, set up a special time that our ODK members could log on virtually, get those questions answered, get that help that they need. We also shared internship positions and volunteer opportunities when they were available, both through email and our Instagram following. And we just wanted to ensure that even though we were virtual, that our members felt like they were supported and that they still had a home to go to for ODK, that it wasn't just a membership, that it was actually an organization on campus.
Okay, all right. Angelina, will you please describe what you may see as the challenges facing Omicron Delta Kappa at the national level as well as the circle level?
I would say the biggest issue and something that we realized that maybe we were missing as a Rollins chapter was when we had Jamie actually from National come visit us. And we realized that there seemed to be, I don't want to call it a lack of communication, but we weren't as connected as I think we could have been to create as easy of a process as it could have been. So Jamie gave us so many resources, whether it was a flyer or certain links or knowledge about certain scholarships that of course like are on the website, but I think more direct communication to our local chapter as Rollins, especially with the turnover of our entire exec board from last year, would have been extremely, extremely helpful. And that's something we obviously learned, and we're still talking to Jamie all the time. I mean, I email her all the time. And so I think that would be a thing on a national chapter. I think as a local chapter, issues we're facing as Rollins, and I'm sure other chapters are facing, is making sure that we're connecting and using all our resources as Omicron Delta Kappa. We're a huge honor society with so many alumni who are doing amazing things. And that was our big push, honestly, to do our LinkedIn, just even for our Rollins College chapter, because we know our national chapter does have one, but our biggest thing is trying to create those connections and, giving our current members all the skills and everything we can give them to get out of this experience in the honor society to take on with them for the rest of their life, because it's a lifetime membership, as everyone else is saying.
Okay. Angelique, what are your thoughts about ODK's challenges at the local level, the circle level, as well as the national level?
So being on the marketing committee for the National Leadership Conference, I've kind of realized that engagement is very important, especially when it comes to direct signups and in our case at a circle level recruitment. And I've kind of noticed that it's hard to have a social media strategy and get that engagement for ODK at a national level as well as at our circle level. And I feel like what it really came down to for us at a circle level was getting that recruitment. It was hard transitioning from fully online to in person. So a lot of people that qualified for ODK and would have been great candidates weren't really sure what it was. And by the time applications went out, it was a little hard to share the word. So it came down to, for inductions, obviously our candidates are very, very well versed in ODK and very well suited and qualified. But it came down to, after I'm stepping down, I'm setting up the next president in line with just doing more meetings earlier in the semester, getting the name of ODK out. There's so many resources that you can request from the national level that I don't really think that we got the ability to take advantage of just because we were virtual. So I feel like what it really comes down to as a problem at both the national level and the local level is engagement. And then more specifically, that kind of trickles down to recruitment for us.
Okay, all right. Emmeline, what would you think are some of the challenges that the society faces at the circle level and the national level?
Struggles that our circles face are so deeply connected to the struggles that nationals may have. Specifically, I think that nationals needs to prioritize equipping our student leaders with piecemeal action items that help them accomplish the circle's goals that are obviously shared by nationals. So we have these questions of how do we improve diversity and how do we make sure we're getting all of our areas of campus that we want to recruit to come out and join ODK. And those sorts of questions about recruitment and membership and engagement, how do we get to where we want to go? And Nationals has done a great job of providing resources, but sometimes resources for a struggling circle aren't going far enough. sometimes it's necessary to provide templates and pieces of information that really help student leaders who might be, you know, out of breath, out of words, to say, here's step one, here's where you're going. Let's fill in all those steps in between so that way you understand the timeline of how you're going to accomplish this goal. And really breaking it down makes it approachable for student leaders who also have so much on their plate, full-time students. And sometimes those big lofty goals of, oh yeah, we need to work on this, we need to work on this, get away from us. So when we are helped in that management process and communicate within our circle executive boards about who's doing what and making sure that we are all on the same page about those goals, helps us accomplish the big ticket items of engagement, diversity, and membership.
Okay. All right. We are getting a little close on time, so I'm going to ask you all to keep your responses to the last two questions somewhat briefer so that we can take some questions from the audience. So, Angelique, what do you think are the expectations and needs of our currently enrolled students, our collegiate members?
So I think the expectations definitely are professional development as well as personal growth. I know a lot of people join ODK to build that network. I mean, they focus on, the value, the mission of ODK, collaboration. They're trying to do inclusivity, integrity, scholarship, service. So I feel like the expectation is that we're providing those opportunities for them at a circle level, and then we're getting that from the national level.
Okay. Emmeline, what do you think are some of the expectations and needs of our collegiate members?
One thing I think that our members look for in membership in ODK is mentorship. But when you think about mentorship as like a 19-year-old joining a professional organization, you don't quite understand what that means. And no one ever takes the time to sit down and really explain it to you. The most valuable piece of advice I ever got was about how to stay in touch and keep a mentor updated on everything you do. And that advice has transformed my professional career and led to so many other opportunities of just reaching out to former employers and different mentors in my life and saying, hey, this is what I've been up to for the last 3-6 months. And I really think that we can help our members build their networks by really breaking down what it means to be a mentee and understanding the expectations that go on within a mentor-mentee relationship. And then further, we can work to connect our mentees with alumni in ODK.
Okay. Angelina, your turn. What do you think are some of the needs and expectations of our currently enrolled members?
So I think some of their needs are leadership development, obviously, because we are an honor society, but we're trying to create leaders for tomorrow, right? So continuing to develop and hone in those skills because they're coming in as student leaders. I know on our Rollins application, we just sat through a couple months ago, our application process, and they have to be student leaders on campus. Like that's a huge part of it. So obviously they're coming in with all this experience, but I think there's no cap to our leadership development. And I think continuing to grow that is a need that they have. I know it's a need that I continue to have. It's a need that I think we should be fulfilling. I think support for our future. So just like Emmelina just said, with networking and mentorship, I think that's super important. Like I said before, with the LinkedIn that we're trying to work at Rollins College, I think other needs is just having a support team of like-minded individuals. Being an Omicron Delta Kappa, we're all qualifying in the same exact way. And so with that, it kind of creates this common bond that we all have. And I think some expectations that we can have of our members are just to follow the 5 pillars. They're in the organization because they believe in what we believe as a standard and moral practice.
Okay, all right. Last formal question. And those of you who are participating, and if you have questions for the candidates, please be sure to put them in the chat box because we'll be going to that part of the program here shortly. So, Emmeline, we've talked tonight a lot about diversity initiatives. And so how do you think ODK can better advocate for social justice as a national organization?
The bottom line is to start our circles being better advocates for social justice, we have to hone in on diversity in recruitment, period. That's it. That is the bottom line here. We have to create a culture of outreach within each circle that helps our student leaders activate every corner of campus that we seek to involve in our community. And that really means going in front of those organizations like the Black Honors the Black Honors Caucus at the University of South Carolina. They're a powerful group of students that really rally a community, and getting in front of organizations like that and the Transfer Student Alliance and organizations of marginalized communities that are still so important to our function of our university is going to be critical in continuing to create a community that comes up with creative ideas. And that process is something I want to mimic on every circle at the national level. And that looks like shifting a focus towards action. So once we've incorporated all of these corners of campus, coming together and making sure the voices that we freshly recruited feel included and feel ready to come to the table with their ideas, because that's how we start to make projects and clay grants that really focus on social justice and do the advocating that Nationals is hoping that our young people produce. And that really starts with making sure we're not just talking the talk and doing DEI workshops, but really involving the voices that need to be involved in creating social justice for our world.
Thank you. Angelina, what are your thoughts about how ODK can be a better advocate for social justice?
So I think the ways that ODK can be a better advocate for social justice are things that I've learned actually from other organizations, just seeing what has worked and what hasn't. So while being student in the National Society of Leadership and Success, we have forum posts, we call them speaker broadcasts. We have speakers come in, speak on different topics. So an idea that I would have is actually make social justice forums. So we pull speakers from various areas and we have them come and kind of do a speech just like this. So whether we have it live running and we obviously can have it recorded, so that we're able to give our members access to experiences like this, to open their minds, to be more well-rounded, because I think at the end of the day, that is our goal and that's the only way to do it. And I think a second way to do is actually adding something to the application process. So I obviously filled out the application when I was a sophomore, but I think sitting through the interview or the application review process this past spring has been really eye-opening for me. So I'm a first generation US citizen. I know there's a lot of first generation college students at Rollins, and there's little things like that that I think get missed out on the application. Or when students come from maybe a lower socioeconomic background, they might not be able to participate in as many leadership activities, or maybe, they're working 2 part-time jobs instead. There might be limitations and things that we're kind of missing out on this full picture of who this student is, who might be awesome for the organization, but we might never know about. So I think maybe perhaps adding something to our application to kind of catch those people who I feel like might be falling through the cracks, who might be perfect for our organization, is something that we can do to become more inclusive in that way.
Okay. And Angelique, finally, how do you think that the society can be a better advocate for social justice?
The vision I see for how ODK can better advocate for social justice is definitely taking a look internally. So advocacy starts at home, and I think it's important to answer questions like, are we making sure that all voices are being heard? Are we doing enough for causes that we and furthermore the members are passionate about? It's a great first step to evaluate the structure of ODK that deals with social justice issues. I think it's really important to make sure that we know our members and that their needs are heard, and that if there's situations of social justice going on, that we're not just kind of taking a back seat for it. Sorry, I live in New York, so there's definitely a fire truck going by right now. But like I was saying, it's important to make sure that the voices are heard, and that if social justice issues are present, that they're dealt with and they're talked about, not just kind of brushed to the side. Desmond Tutu says, if you're neutral in situations of injustice, you've chosen the side of the oppressor. So I think it's really important to make sure that we are outspoken.
Thank you all very much. So we have a question from the audience, and the question is, how do you plan to prioritize your current obligations as well as the expectations of serving on our Board of Trustees? Just so to provide a frame of reference, the board itself meets 4 times a year, and usually 1 time is in person. All members of the that are the student trustees. All three of the student trustees serve on the mission committee, and then they also serve on the student advisory board, and then they also serve on a subcommittee. So there's an awful lot going on. So, the first one is the first person gets to answer that question about how you're going to manage prioritizing your time and your obligations. If you are elected in this position, is to you, Angelina.
So thank you so much for that question. I think the way I would manage is, one, I'm super organized. Google Calendars is probably my best friend. So I'm always on there. And I think within just having 4 meetings a year, I remember our one in-person one, I believe is at National Conference. I think that's very manageable for me. I'm also stepping down actually this year from the National Society of Leadership and Success. I think I kind of fulfilled my role as student president and deciding to take a back seat to look for new opportunities such as this one. And I'd love to fulfill this position.
Angelique, how are you going to do the balancing act?
So ironically, we just had a feedback meeting for a program that I'm involved in. And one of my feedback from a fellow student on the team was, do you sleep? The answer is no. But being a student all 4 years, I've definitely taken advantage of all the programs and orgs that St. John's has to offer. I'm on multiple committees, multiple subcommittees, student orgs, presidents, vice president, treasurer, secretary of a whole bunch of organizations. And unfortunately, going into my final year of grad, I have to give up those roles and pass the torch. So I am now freeing up a whole bunch of time. So I definitely have the time available. And I think it comes down to prioritizing time. And a position like this is definitely priority over a lot of other organizations that I could get involved in.
Okay. Emmeline, how are you going to balance everything from your experience, responsibilities with the Chi Circle and the national organization and everything else that you do?
I think that my responsibilities at the circle level and the national level really make a natural pairing because it's really just applying the same role and responsibility, but to a larger scale. And I think that that's going to be a real strength of mine. And I've also taken a step back from a lot of things that were important to me and are important to me in preparation for my role with the Chi Circle in this coming year. And also applying to law school and those sorts of things. But I'm prepared to take on the time commitments that engagement at the national level require. And I'm really eager to get involved in that way.
Okay. So earlier today, we had the forum with the candidates for the faculty staff trustee position. And I asked them basically to ask for the sale. So asking for the sale is telling the audience why you should be elected for this position. And so Angelina, why should you be the elected candidate for the next student trustee and national student vice chair elect?
So like I said before, my name is Angelina Crusader. I think I should be elected as your next student trustee because of my various leadership experience by being co-captain of the sailing team, representing myself and my team on various diversity committees within sailing and athletics as a whole, being able to manage being a full-time student in a 3-2 accredited MBA program while being a full-time student athlete. I also was working 3 jobs this year. So just a lot of time management, I think, shows how much I would be able to actually commit to having this role because I clearly have good time management skills because I've done pretty well, I would say. I think that I'm just super excited about this organization. We've grown our Rollins College chapter a lot. We've been really working on growing our chapter engagement, and that's something huge. I know we're working on the national circle or the national level as well. And so for all of those reasons, I urge you guys to vote for me. Thank you.
Okay. Emmeline, why should you be considered as the next candidate for the student trustee and national student vice chair elect?
I think that I bring a wonderful quality to the table that really gets to the bottom of understanding what it takes to run a circle. I understand the levels of communication needed and the counseling of members when they're worried about not being able to make a meeting because they have another meeting going on. Our members are heavily involved. And those interpersonal struggles are something that I have navigated for the last 2 years. And I've really enjoyed getting to navigate and getting to teach other student leaders how to work through those personal struggles with other members. And I really understand the importance of in-person connections. As a student who started college pre-pandemic and really understood the value of those really small chit-chatty conversations before and after class that lead to like having study buddies and having mentors after college. I really want to prioritize in-person connections for each circle and making sure that those options are there for members who are ready to re-engage in person and create valuable connections that will stand a lifetime of membership. And lastly, I really understand the value of mentorship. When we get down to it, the mission of ODK is intergenerational mentorship. And the best way to do that is starting at the collegiate level, starting at our circle level, and starting within levels. So we're talking about seniors mentoring new sophomores, new initiates, and how that just snowballs leadership into productive programming for the society.
Yeah. And then Angelique, last but not least, why should you be elected as the next student trustee and national student vice chair-elect?
I think I hold those skills both interpersonal and professionally, the knowledge of ODK through my position as my circle's outgoing president, as well as our public relations chair, and then for the National Leadership Committee working on the marketing team at that national level. I think that I have those professional skills and knowledge that will transfer well into the position. I definitely have the drive, the desire, the commitment, and I think ODK being such a big part of my college experience, I think that it would just translate well into this position, as well as I just think it would be a great opportunity. It's definitely going to help me grow as an individual, both professionally and internally. And I would just love the opportunity to show you guys all that I can do.
Well, I know each one of you has a very bright future ahead of you, and we will find multiple ways to keep you engaged with Omicron Delta Kappa through the rest of your lives. So thank you all for your answers this afternoon, or I guess it's now evening, and your thoughtful responses. And we are going to tell everybody here right now a little bit about the next steps. So we are collecting the names of the student circle delegates who are going to be sent the information about the election process. The election will take place online from May 25th through June 3rd. And during the leadership conference, our three young women are going to be actually at the conference and will be introduced and participate in a town hall sponsored by the Student Advisory Board. The officially elected candidate will be announced during the awards banquet on Saturday, June the 4th. If you have any questions about the election process, answers to most questions can be found on the Society's website at odk.org. We look forward to seeing many of our students and our advisors at the conference, and please always stay in touch with us, whether it's through LinkedIn, our social media platforms, or simply just dropping us a note. Thank you very much for your participation, and have a good evening.